Today I'm here in Frankfurt where it is very cold, but behind me is a very special car. It's one of Europe's forbidden fruits to us Americans. It's a diesel, it's a wagon, and for me, it's a BMW. It's got 2 turbos, it's got a buttload of torque, and it's got all the space that you could possibly want. Join me here at the Nurburg ring with the 2025 BMW G61 540D Touring. So as I mentioned, the 5 Series diesel comes with a wide variety of options that we just don't get in America. You might see a 530, you might see a 528. We at least had those on the previous generations, but this one I just don't think we're getting. Now I looked at the specifications on BMW's press releases just released a week ago, so I'm gonna give you some stats of what I was reading compared to basically a 540i in the States. B58, we know it, we love it. It's got about 385 horsepower, 400 with the update. But with this, you're only missing one number. You've got a B57 under the hood. So with 300 horsepower, you've got 2 turbos instead of 1. But with the power of diesel, you're getting almost 500 pound-feet of torque. I think that's about 670 Newton meters for you Europeans, because you're the only ones who get this. In any case, that shoots you from 0 to 60 in 5.2 seconds with xDrive. That's faster than my F32 4 Series with the 2-liter turbo back home in the States with an N20. But to see that in a diesel that weighs, let me get this straight, 5,886 pounds. That is more than my 7 Series weighs with the carbon core and just rear-wheel drive. Speaking of which, on weight, you've got a power-to-weight ratio of 19.4 pounds per horsepower. And speaking of size, this is 199 inches long, whereas my 7 Series is only 2 inches longer. In width, it's only 0.7 inches narrower than my 7 Series. So this is the same width as a 7 Series with only 2 inches shorter. Now that might be a wagon thing, I don't know, I didn't look at the sedan, but the fact that this is basically the size of my 7 Series is quite astounding because it looks the size. This is definitely an imposing vehicle, there's no doubt about that. And while this might not have the looks of the previous generation G30, which in my opinion is peak modern BMW 5 Series, the technology is certainly there. The driving characteristics can be there when they're not on winter tires, but as an average consumer, what is it that you're mainly looking for? It's technology, it's comfort, and it's efficiency. Diesels are perfect for that example. This car is averaging around 6 to 6.5 liters per 100 kilometers, which roughly translates to about 36 to 39 miles per gallon. In the States, you might be seeing about 10 miles per gallon less. On petrols, you'll usually see about 20 to 30 for highway combined. If there's one thing I've seen about European car owners, it's that they love 2 things, a diesel and a wagon. If it wasn't a diesel, it was a wagon. Out of all the cars we've seen here, I could probably count 1 out of every 4 was either a hatchback or a station wagon. And there's a good reason for that. SUVs and minivans are just too big. And as you can see, opening this up in the tailgate, with this amount of storage, you could not only take 5 people to the airport, but all of their luggage. If I open up the bottom of the floorboard, you actually have a hidden compartment for extra storage. It's not the greatest, but without having any spares anymore, it's better than nothing. However, my favorite part about these cars, and it is an option, but you can get them here, is the hideaway tow hitch, which if I press this button, will actually come out underneath. Aside from that, you get your normal features back here. You've got a 12-volt socket. You are able to do the ski pass-through as well as put all the seats down. They are manual, unlike a lot in the States. We do actually get the electric ones in the X5 and the X7. But if you just pull the latch here and then here, all the seats will go down. I've got stuff in the back, so that's why they're not. And you'll have a huge load floor. You just take off your parcel cover and you can put it underneath, and you've got an absolute massive amounts of space. And with that amount of space, let's move on to the inside and see what some of the features are for the back row. So in the back seat here, you've actually got quite a lot of space. Now, I'm by no means one of the tallest people in the world. Well, I'm about 5'9", 200 pounds right now. And sitting in a normal, comfortable position behind myself, I've got about 3-4 inches of room, plenty of armrest and space in the middle. I've got like 4 inches of headroom as well. And on top of that, in this car in particular, it's optioned with the heated rear seats. And if that wasn't enough technology for you, there's 4 USB-Cs here with the little slot in the back of these seats to add a screen holder or any of BMW's in-house little accessories that you get for the back of seats. Other than that, I'm super happy with these back seats. Again, in this car that's the size of a 7 Series, I mean, it doesn't feel like a 5. That's for damn sure. I even like the touch of the Bowers & Wilkins sound system, which I'm going to touch on here in a bit. I don't think it's the same as my car. I think they're kind of doing a tiered system where you can have 2 types of Bowers & Wilkins, whereas with the last generation, it was just Harman Kardon and then Bowers & Wilkins. So on that note, that's kind of a common theme you will find in this car, is that a lot of things get cheapened by the dilution of many of the features in this car. A lot of people feel like that BMW is just diluting this brand identity because M is supposed to be an exclusive part of BMW. It's not for everyone. Now, I don't wholly agree with that sentiment. I think there's some truth to the argument, but I do think that it's definitely benefited the brand because at the end of the day, if you're buying a BMW, you like something a little bit sportier, you like something that drives a little bit better, and in order to do that, you might have to pull from your more expensive, your more premium brands. And you know, phones and technology do that all the time. They'll take a piece of something more expensive, put it in that lower tier item to make it feel more premium. Now, the back seat's all well and good. Let's move to the front seat and talk about a little bit what you get with iDrive 8.5, as well as the new generation and suite of safety technologies. So sitting up front in the G61, you can see there's a slew of technology in front of you. The wide iDrive 8.5 screen is absolutely massive. Heads-up display is super clear. Got tons of space in the middle with the new haptic iDrive knob, which has already gone away. They got rid of the transmission selector, so now it's what we like to call the Plinko switch. And every single button that you normally touch is basically haptic. So to call it a button is maybe a little bit of a stretch, but even outside of that, anything and everything that you would possibly need is in this screen. I'm going to be very critical of this car because I am a little bit more preferential to the previous generation, and that is something that I want to touch a quick note on. This car, to me, is such a downgrade to the G30. Yes, it's got more technology, it's probably safer, but it's heavier, it's cheaper feeling, and it just does not have a good driving characteristic. Now, I'll touch on that too. It does have winter tires, so I am taking that into consideration, but it is heavy. You could tell this car weighs almost 6,000 pounds. It is absolutely a fridge in terms of size. I just feel like the overall air of this car does not scream quality. It does not scream executive. It is not a 5 Series. The G30 felt like a modern iteration of the E39, as it should. It's a 5 Series. They should feel similar. Now, this car does feel good. It's well spaced. It's got a good layout, but I just feel like it's lacking in the 5 Series department. It doesn't feel like an upgrade from a 3 Series. And the 3 Series of this generation is absolutely fantastic. That's why it's such a great platform, because we have so many options. It's the everyman's 3 Series. So why couldn't they get it right with the 5? And I think it's just because everything's gotten so large. How do you differentiate between the 3, the 5, the 7? So there's this wide array of so many different vehicles that can't seem to find a decent footing in their category. I don't know. Again, I know I'm being pretty critical here, but it's just unfortunate to see the attention to detail. Maybe not necessarily the quality, but the attention to detail has been slowly cut away in order to make room for profits. Alrighty, so finally on the road. We're heading back to Frankfurt. We're sad. Trip ending. But on the note of the car, if you are coming into this knowing, you know, you're getting a good experience, you know you're getting the technology, the safety that I mentioned, you've got everything that you would possibly need in terms of safety, convenience, and features. The driving experience is perfectly palatable. We're on winter tires, so that's something I'm going to note here. When I first got in the car and was driving it, the steering was super vague, very wobbly, because I don't drive on winter tires. I didn't know at first until it clicked in my head. I was like, oh, these have winter tires on. So in any case, I know the driving dynamics would be better on better tires, duh, but I do like the extra comfort that is given on these extra ratio tires. In an age where most cars are becoming equipped with 19s and 20s as standards, I think these are 18s and they have, I can't remember the aspect ratio, but it's pretty comfortable. I mean, going back to a coil and spring setup from the air ride on the 7 Series, you can definitely feel the difference. There's a lot more feeling, it's more analog. I like that. But everything's great. Fuel efficiency is great. We are a little bit higher than the range anticipated, the 6 to 6.5 liters per 100 kilometers or whatever it is. I think when we first got here, the car said I got just at 6.5. Right now we're sitting at 7.6 just because of idling, really short trips, very close proximity to everything here. But we were getting really good figures on the highway, so I'll report back on that once we're driving around a little bit more. Other than that, it's a heavy car. You can feel it in the braking. I mentioned that earlier. This thing weighs as much as the 7 Series, which has a carbon core, it's rear-wheel drive, and it's got a twin-turbo V8. So very surprised at that kind of weight. I do know this has a mild hybrid system, but as far as I recall, it's not anything crazy. 286 horsepower from the engine alone, about 18 from the hybrid system equates to 303 horsepower. Same with the torque figure. It equates to basically 500. It's like 494 pound-feet of torque. I mentioned 5.2 seconds to 0 to 60. That's pretty freaking good for this size of a car, this class of a car. So it definitely feels like it has some good go. There'll be some times where I accidentally press the gas a little too hard and it kind of moves. Unfortunately, these seats don't have the sport bolstering that you can manually adjust. It does pump them when you're in sport mode, so that's nice, but I think it only does the driver's side. I'm sure if you option it, this does have the M Sport package, but it doesn't have the seats optioned, so they're fine. It has at least has the back bolster, but it doesn't have the sides. Comfort is very, very high though. The heated steering wheel is super nice. It gets super hot, pretty quiet in here. I mean, if you can't tell, I'm going 70 kilometers an hour, so only about like 50 miles an hour. But even at highway speeds, we were going max, I was going was about 170, which is about 110 miles an hour. It's really quiet. It's not 7 Series quiet, but very, very comfortable. I don't know what I'm trying to get at here other than it just doesn't feel like it's much better than the G30. You feel like every generation there should be a fairly decent amount of lift, but all of the features you can get on this car you could get in the previous. And because of that reason, that's why it's very hard for me to see why, as an enthusiast, you would go for this car. You could get a 540 diesel, M Sport, G30 wagon, like all day, and those cars just look better. They have higher interior quality. The ride is more athletic, and then it's like, why do you buy this? If you really want, the only reason you do this is for the technology. And so that's just the common theme. I keep harking on it. It's these cars are made for the general masses, and my girlfriend agrees that she likes the car. It's nice technology. It's very comfortable. There's absolutely no problem with that. So, as an enthusiast, I think the general consensus is that a G30 you can get for a much more affordable price. This is a rental, obviously. We have already 22,000 kilometers. It's less than a year old. So that's about 16,000 miles. It's a lot higher than average. As I mentioned, it's a rental, it's gonna be driven. But considering it already has that much in a year, it's held up very well. I don't actually see that much level of usage. The steering wheel looks brand new, nothing looks greasy. The only thing that shows wear is the piano black, but every BMW that has piano black looks like crap anyways. So that, you know, it gets smudgy, it gets scratched up easily, that's fine. So other than that, I think it's really, really good. Again, from a driving perspective, it's what you expect. But with that, let's move to the closing statements. In summary, what do I think about the G61 5 Series diesel? It's no wolf in sheep's clothing like the G30 550 was in the previous generation. The V8 is long gone. You can only get that in a plug-in hybrid in the M5. With that being said though, if we got this in the States, it would certainly be a phenomenal competitor to SUVs because that's just the way we do things in the States. If you had the versatility, the efficiency, the ability to hitch your project car to the Nurburgring like you do here, I think this thing would be an absolute blast. And I don't know why we don't do more station wagons in the US. With that, thank you guys so much for joining me on this trip here to Frankfurt. I hope you guys really like this style of content. We're finishing up a trip here. Be sure to go check out our video of us driving on the Nurburgring here. We kind of had some mishaps here and there, but as always, I'm your host, Donovan. Thank you for watching Your Fever Garage. And as always, see you guys next time.